All right. So all of you all have already done the RLHF fundamentals test, if I'm not wrong. Yes, no, maybe. So you have an idea what preference ranking is. You have either also worked with us on Groot, which is the project Shield, right? You've also worked with us on that in the month of April, probably. If you haven't, you have gone through the SOL platform and you have gone through the fundamentals of preference ranking, given the RLHF test, and that's where we've invited you all here. Okay, so, all right, give me 1 second. Right. So the tasks that we're going to do now, they are similar tasks. You are also required to do preference ranking on the same thing. Now, the ones that you did, probably the kind of questions that you saw. Guys, if you have your hands raised for your attendance and those kind of things, you can lower them right now. I will take pauses in between to address any queries that you all have, and any logistical queries, I'll take them up towards the end so we're not disrupting the learning workflow for anyone. Okay. Now, the preference ranking test that you all gave in your fundamentals, which was your RLHF, we're going to follow a very similar format. You will again have two questions, two answers to the same question, and you are required to rate them. Now, what essentially happens on preference ranking is the dimensions keep changing based on the task itself. Right? So, some dimensions might be applicable to some kind of questions, and to other kind of questions there might be some other dimensions that need to be checked. Essentially, the kind of questions you would have looked at were, can you write a 200-word essay for me, right? Or can you find 5 places in South India that I can visit for a vacation? So very generic fundamental questions. Now when it comes to this project that we are going to get trained on today, these are action specific questions. What do I mean by action specific questions? Let me quickly share my screen. 1 minute. Right, everyone able to look at my screen? Can I get a quick thumbs up if you are? Yes, no, maybe. Okay, great. Right. So the kind of tasks that we're going through, like I mentioned, are action specific. Guys, can we not annotate on the screen, please? Thank you. So this is essentially the task that we are going through. The reason it's called action extensions is because these tasks are based on actions that the model can perform. So, not just finding information, not just fetching content for you, not just doing certain things, it can perform actions for you. Now, what do we mean by actions that the model can perform? Right? These actions could include changing things on your phone. So, let's say, how much battery percentage does my phone have? Or if you have smart lights in your house, can you please switch on the smart lights for me? So, performing an action for you is what we're training the model in. And these specific tasks are related to calendar action. So, what essentially do you do on your calendars? What do you generally do on your calendar? I'll open up the chat for y'all. Schedule meetings, set alarms, add reminders. Right? Do you also go back to check what's set on your calendar instead of just setting it? Right? You set it and you also go back to check what's set. So these are essentially the two things the model is also being trained on as of now. There might be more things that the model can perform for you on your calendars. So you can tell the model, please go and set a meeting for me at 6 o'clock. Or you can go and ask the model, what's in my calendar for 7 o'clock? Either of these things can be done through this, and that's what we're training the model to do right now. Okay, that's the task. So you have your question here. This is when the thing was created, the prompt that was asked by the user. This is your prompt itself. Open my calendar for 7 p.m. Now, along with the prompt, you will also be given context. Now, what is context? The model needs to be given some information from your calendar to be able to go and do your task. Do models generally have access to your calendars? Can you, do you have to enable permissions whenever you set up something on your phone? So that's essentially what models are also given access to. If the model has access to your calendar, only then it's going to be able to go and do this for you. Right? Imagine I ask you to write a 200-word essay on climate change from the documents that I'm giving you. And then I give you two documents that are not related to climate change, but they are talking about prompting. Would you be able to write a 200-word essay on climate change from those documents? No. The context is not given to you to go and do the task. Right? Um, Right. Vimlesh, I'm not sure why this has come up. It might be a multiple entry in the form or your sole IDs are duplicate. You can leave the meeting if you want to. Right. So you need some context. The model will need access to your calendar to be able to go and fetch the task for you or create an event for you. So that's exactly what you will be seeing in your context blocks. What information from your calendar is available to the model? So this entire calendar that you had is available to the model. Okay. Based on that, it has the responses. So these are your responses. The model was asked, open my calendar for 7 p.m. And this is the response that the model came up with. Now, along with the responses, you also have the context, which is a part of your question itself. Your response A context is the information that the model needed to fulfill your task. So that's not the response. That's a part of your query itself. After that, you have these blocks. So these are codes. What is a code and a code output in the first place? Right? So this is your code, this is your code output. Right? If you see, there might be blocks with no contents in them. Your first block is almost always the user's question. Then the second block is the model trying to identify how to do these tasks. So the model deploying its own thought process in decoding, okay, how am I going to complete this task? What's going to be my plan of action? Then you will see the model deploying a code, right? When I say deploying a code, it is going to use something to go and perform your task. In simple words, let's say I ask the model, please find hotels within a budget of 2000 per night in Hyderabad. The model needs to get this information from somewhere, right? If I ask you something, what do you do? Now we have GPT, Gemini, all of this, but what would you do initially? You would go to Google search, you would go to Google flights, let's say if you wanted flight information, or you'd go to Make My Trip or something. So you make use of some tool that's available to get the information. That's exactly what models also do, and these tools are made available to the model. So there's some specific things that the model has available to them, right? For your calendar task, generic calendar or anything that basically says calendar that's relevant to the question is the tool that the model is going to deploy. Then is your function. So this is the function, which is what is the model doing with this tool? Is it searching for things? Is it going and playing YouTube videos? So then play would have come. And then these parts are your parameters. So parameters are your refining criteria. Right? What's a parameter? Parameter is your refining criteria. Let's say you want to shop online, you're trying to buy a television. You know in your mind that you want a 42-inch television. You want it from Sony. You want it to have HD speakers. So when you go to your applications website, wherever you're buying it from, Reliance, Chroma, directly from Sony, wherever, you put filters. You say, all right, I want it from this brand. I want it from, I want it as a 42-inch TV, and I want this. So all these filters that you put are your parameters that are required for the model to refine its search and give you the most appropriate answers. As a result of this, it comes up with a code output. So once the code is deployed, what's the output of it is given to you here. Sometimes it's given, sometimes it's not. Let's see, block 4 here doesn't have anything. Block 3 doesn't have anything. So I'll show you how you tackle these things, but this is your code output, right? After the code was deployed, what did the model come up with? In your generic everyday things, let's say you used Google search to give me a 200-word essay on prompting. My task for you was, please write a 200-word essay on prompting, and you use Google search for that. You come up with 10 links. All these 10 links will have some information. So what do? You first bring all this information together. Then you go through it and pick out your main points. So all the information you found when you made your search becomes the base for you creating an answer. And that's exactly what a code output is. When it deployed the code, what was the output that came up? And then this will help the model come up with your answers. This might be done multiple times if the model is not able to get your answers in the first go. Are we clear till here? Is this making sense? So we do have our prompt, we have context that will be made available to the model to answer your questions, and then you will have your responses. These responses will be evaluated based on these dimensions. What are these dimensions? The first one you've got is something called a punt. What is a punt? I'll go through that. Then you have instruction following. So everyone who's done even the fundamental test, you know what instruction following is. We'll quickly skim through these. I don't want to bore you all with all the instructions, right? To give you a one view of what are the dimensions that you're going to evaluate. These are the dimensions: punt, instruction following, contextual awareness, relevance. So you already know what contextual awareness is, you know context awareness, you know relevance, you know completeness, writing style and tone, collaborativity. Truthfulness is nothing but factual accuracy. And then information retrieval, I'll take you through that, code and code output as well. We already discussed what code and code output is. I'll take you through how to rate it as well. And then you have your overall response quality, right? Let's start with the first dimension, which is your punt. So what is a punt in the first place? A punt is when the model refuses to answer the prompt. Meaning, the user asked a particular question and the model refused to answer. The model said, I cannot do this for you. Or the model says, sorry, I can't find this information for you. So the model denies, the language might be different. Sometimes the model might give you a reason for not doing your task, sometimes it won't. That does not matter. What you're going to look for when you are identifying a punt is, did it actually answer my question or did it refuse to answer my question? If it refuses, that becomes a punt. Now, there are four categories under this that you will have to mark. The first one is response is a punt, just a punt, right? If you see the next two, there's useful and not useful. But the first category we have is response is a punt. Here, all the model does is refuses to answer you. You only have the punt statement where the model says, sorry, I can't answer this. As an AI model, I can't do this. Or it might give you reasons. So, reasons are not extra information for you. Reasons are still a part of the model's refusal, just trying to justify why it's not able to do this. Let's go through some examples. Let's say I ask the model, please find me flight information for 5th May 2025. Will the model be able to do this for me? No? Right? Guys, any logistical questions, can we please not put it in the chat box? I don't want to not make this interactive by letting you all put answers. But at the same time, let's leave all logistical things about Soul platform, attendance, everything to the end. Okay? Right. If I ask the model, find me flights for a past date, you said the model cannot do this. So let's say the model comes back and says, sorry, I can't do this for you because these dates seem to be in the past. Okay for the model to say that? Yeah? But it's still refusing. So what does that mean? That is a punt. Now, the next category is useful punt, which means model refuses to answer, but at the same time also gives you some useful information along with it. So it might not answer what you want because it might not be able to do this for you, right? It's saying these dates are in the past, I can't get you flight information for this. However, if you give me new dates and your destinations as well, I might be able to help you. So that becomes a useful punt because the model is still providing some related yet useful information for you to be able to go and find your answer. Right? So it might be alternative questions, it might be clarifications, it might be suggestions, it might be considerations, but the model is giving you some extra information beyond just refusing to answer you. Now let's say on the same thing about the flight information. Model said, sorry, I can't do this for you. These dates seem to be in the past. However, Hyderabad is a beautiful place. It's got Charminar. It's got a lot of tourist attractions that you can go and visit. Will that information help me find flights? No, right? So those things where the model refuses gives you extra information, but this information cannot be used by the user to move towards their goal. That becomes responses, not a useful punt. So this is just refusing. It may have reasons, but reasons are not extra information. Extra information is where the model goes after refusing, also, it goes and gives you alternatives, suggestions, follow up questions, clarifications, alternative ways to find your own answer. If you are not able, if the model is not able to help you, it'll tell you that as an AI model, I can't do this, but this is how you can go and do it. Right? So all of that is useful information after the refusal. So that becomes response is a punt. After that is response is not a useful punt, where I've told you that extra information will still be there. But this information cannot be used by the user to move towards their answer. And then finally, you've got responses not a punt, which means the model went ahead and answered as usual. Now, one other thing you need to remember here is, guys, can we please stop having all these questions in the chat box right now? Right. Now, some other questions when it comes to puns. Let's say the model, Shivan, I want to disable the chat box, but at the same time, I am going to put up a lot of questions so that you all get some clarity. So I want you all to respond to that. After like 2-3 minutes, once I'm done with my questions, I will pause the chat box. Right? Okay. Now, when it comes to model refusing, say the model actually could not find me flights because these dates were in the past. Is this an issue with the model? Or is the model genuinely not able to do this for me? Is it okay for the model to refuse? Genuine, right? Let's say I asked it for find me flights for the 15th of July, which is next week. And the model still comes back and says, sorry, I can't do this for you. Doesn't give me any reason, just says, sorry, I can't do this. Or it might just say, sorry, I can't do this because I can't find this information for you. Is that okay for the model to deny? No. Both of these were punts, guys. Even when it was genuine, even when it's not genuine, both of them are punts. Right? So it's not that model being genuine or not decides its punt. What it decides is how well was the model able to follow my instructions. If the model was able to do this for me, right? Model was able to go and find me flight information for 15th of July. There's nothing wrong in it. And it still says, no, I can't do this. Is it really following my instructions? No. So not following my instruction becomes an issue in instruction following. But it's still a punt for me, right? Now let's say these dates were in the past and the model said, sorry, I can't find you flight information because these dates are in the past. Genuine. We've already established this is genuine. Did it not follow my instruction here or did it follow my instruction here? It followed my instruction, but it actually could not do it. So is that an instruction following issue anymore? No, we will not penalize the model for that. If the model was able to do something and still denied, then it becomes an issue in its instruction following. I ask you, can you please pick up the book in front of you as a human, right? You're able to do it. If you still don't do it, which means you're not following my instruction. But if I tell you, can you please, I don't know, travel to the sun right now? That's something that you genuinely can't do. And if you deny me for doing that, then that's not an issue in your instruction following. I'm not going to penalize you for that. Clear for everyone what punts are? What's a punt? Punt is just a refusal statement. Useful punt, refusal statement plus extra information that can help the user. This extra information is not reasons, guys. Even if reasons are given and no extra information is given, the response becomes just a punt. Useful and not useful comes only when there's extra information after the refusal. Right? So I've spent a lot of time on this only because this does create a lot of confusion, but I hope it's very clear now. Okay, let's move on to our next dimension, which is instruction following. Right? So give me a minute. Right. So that's your punt. You've got 4 options. You will go and click on whichever one you're choosing. Then you've got, did the response follow all instructions given in the prompt? If it followed everything, no issue. If it missed out on certain elements, primary intent was fulfilled, but certain elements here and there were missed out, minor issue. If it circumvented, violated key components, did not give you the major ask that you had, major issue. It becomes not applicable when there are no instructions given. It's just plain statements. I'm not asking it to do anything. I'm literally just saying, I like the color red or the rainbow is really good. Right? There are no instructions in this particular statement. Then you've got context awareness, which means how good is the model at using context from the prompt in earlier conversations. Here, what you focus on is if it's a multi-turn conversation, which means before this particular question, there was a conversation between the model and the user that was given to you. So for example, I told the model first, what's my day looking like? And the model gave me the 3 events that I had said. Then I tell the model, all right, something at 7 o'clock that's scheduled right now. Can you please change it to a product meeting for me? Then I tell the model something else. Then finally, I ask it, open my calendar for 7 p.m. It should open up to the product meeting that we set because it already has context about that, right? So if there is a multi-turn conversation, you need to check, is the model following your entire conversation or not? Beyond that, this block is also your context. So did the model pick the right information from this or not? If you're telling 7 p.m., open my calendar for 7 p.m., and you know that on at 7 p.m., the model needs to pick that you're having dinner with the band. So how well did it pick information from here? That also becomes a part of your context. So both your previous conversations and the context block become a part of your context awareness. If the block is not given and you have previous conversation, you will still go ahead and check. If the previous conversation is not given, block is given, you still have some context. Only in cases where both of them are not given. No previous conversation, no context. Only in those cases it becomes not applicable. All right? Both your conversation and your context block are a part of your contextual awareness. Please remember this. You will mark not applicable only when both of them are not given. Right? Next is your content relevance. So if everything given to you in your response is relevant to you, helpful to you, is not unnecessarily repeated, that becomes a no issue. Always remember these 3 words. These are the main things that you need to look for. How helpful is the content, how relevant is the content, and it shouldn't be repetitive. Then you've got minor issue, wherein there's a small portion of information that is either repeated, irrelevant, or unhelpful. Major issue, where there's a significant amount of unnecessary content that is repetitive, unhelpful, or irrelevant. Let's say more than 50% of your answer is repeated or irrelevant or unhelpful. That becomes major issue for us. Right? You don't have not applicable here. Please do not mark not applicable. Then you've got how complete is the content. Again, whatever I asked the model, did it go and give me all the information? If it gave me everything, no issues. If it missed out on few things here and there, minor issue. If it missed out on information that I can't use at all, it's not fulfilling my user intent at all. That becomes a major issue. After that, you've got your writing style and tone, which you already are aware of, whether you worked on Groot or your fundamental tasking. If the response is easy to understand, it looks visually appealing, it's well formatted, the tone is fine, then no issues. Minor, if it's a little unnatural, right? Probably there are line breaks, but there's no bulleted list. So they are in different lines, but there are no numbers or bullets against them. Doesn't look very visually appealing. So minor stylistic errors, or it's overly formatted. That becomes a minor issue. Major issue is when the response is stylistically unnatural, unengaging, or formatted poorly enough that it's difficult to read and understand altogether. Right? It's just clumsy, it's chaotic, or it's just not formatted well enough for the user to understand. Along with that, if the model's tone is like it's lecturing or preaching, that also gets flagged in major issues. Right? Next is your collaborativity. So the model is expected to be a good assistant to you, which means if I am asking something for from the model, and if there is a scope to ask me questions, give me suggestions, and do all of that, model should be doing that. Right? Not every question will require collaboration. So check if the prompt of the user needs collaboration in the first place. If the user is looking for something broad, right, only then collaboration is required to clarify. But if the user is looking for something very direct and the model can answer that in a single response, then your collaboration is not required. Right? If collaboration is not required based on the questions, if you look at our question, open my calendar for 7 p.m. What am I asking it to do? It's a direct instruction. There's nothing that the model has to clarify. Now, let's say at 7 p.m. there were two different things scheduled. Then the model should have come back and clarified, okay, these are the two I found. Which is the one that you're exactly looking for? Right? So if my intent is not clear or if my intent is broad enough, model needs to collaborate. For something like this, it's a very straightforward answer, right? Model does not really have to collaborate with me on this. So not applicable, but it does not have to collaborate. No issues when collaboration was required and it collaborated well enough. Gave you suggestions, asked for follow-ups, gave you alternatives, did all of that. Minor, where it could have been a little more proactive. The suggestion or the question that it asked was very generic. Let's say collaboration was required and all it said was, hope this helps. Let me know if you need anything else. Nothing very prompt or user specific. And the major issue is when the response is not feeling cooperative at all. The model has not put in an effort to collaborate with the user. Collaboration was required. It still did not go ahead and ask you any clarity or give you any suggestions, advices, follow-ups, nothing. Right, I'll quickly pause here for a minute. Everything clear till now, guys? Is this making sense to everyone? I've gone through some of the rubrics a little quicker because you have already worked on them. I do want to spend enough time on the ones that are new to you. Yeah? All right. So give me a minute. We'll pause for a minute. If you do have any questions about the rubrics that we've discussed, please put them up. Akshit, I did see your message. Please do not send in the same message multiple times. It does disrupt people's workflow. I did see your message and I will explain that. Okay, just give me a minute, put in your questions, I will answer back. All right, I do see a lot of questions about collaboration. So let's say I asked, we're coming to the calendar task, right? Let me give you examples specifically to this. Let's say I tell the model, create an event for me. What kind of questions do you think the model can ask me here? Does it need to ask me anything? What does it need to ask? Exactly. What's the date? What's the time? What's the title? All of that. So collaboration is needed when the user intent is not clear first. Or the user intent is broad enough where the model can provide suggestions. Right? Let's say I tell the model, please set an event on my calendar for the 20th of May with, if I tell my calendar, please set an event on my calendar for the 10th of July at 6 p.m. as an interview. Was I clear enough? Could there be any other response beyond the model going and actually setting that event for me? No. So their collaboration is not required. That becomes a not applicable. Coming to the other, so I'm not sharing my screen right now, Zed. Coming to the other questions about if it's a punt beyond instruction following or besides instruction following, how do we mark everything else? Again, based on what is the model saying. Sometimes it might tell you that, sorry, I can't do this for you because I cannot access dates in the past. The model genuinely wasn't able to do that, and that's why it denied. Now let's go and look at, let's say, one other rubric, which could be completeness. Right? Give me a minute. This is your completeness. Read minor issues. There is some relevant information missing, which means my flight information is not there. The response might be technically correct. Was my response technically correct in telling me I can't find this flight information for you? Because these dates are in the past? Yes. But did it still satisfy me? Did it give me my information? No. So you will have to read through the criteria explanations properly and then pick the most appropriate answer, even when they are punts. So let's say it is a punt if you look at this particular task that we have. My intent was open my calendar for 7 p.m. In your response A, model says I cannot directly open your calendar as I am an AI as I am an AI model and I do not have access to your personal applications or devices. To see what's on your calendar for 7 p.m., you will need to open it yourself, do all of this. This information is still relevant to me? Yes or no? Is it talking about something very different than what I asked for? No. So that is when relevance will not be an issue. So even if there are punts, you will still have to go through the response, read the rating criteria, and mark the appropriate answers. Right? The next one we have after your collaborativity, that's where we stopped, is your factually accurate. So, how factually accurate is my model, which means how true is my model in whatever it is claiming. So, the first step here is to identify the claims themselves, right? Which means, are there any claims in my answer? If there are claims, we need to go and check them. So, if you look at this specific thing, are there any claims that the model is making? I opened your calendar for 7 p.m. You have dinner with the band scheduled from 7 to 9. This is a claim. I've opened your calendar for 7 p.m. is not the claim. But the model telling me that I have dinner with the band scheduled from 7 to 9 p.m. is a claim for me. Right? This part, if you read through it, to see what's on your calendar for 7 p.m., you will need to open it yourself. You can do this by your phone or your computer, opening your default calendar application, use a voice assistant, and so on. This is not a claim. These are generic instructions that the model has given me. Right? So we need to identify a claim is something that you can go and verify from outside sources or external sources or your context in this case. Right? If you're able to verify things through usable information, those are claims. Right? If there are generic instructions, general statements the model is making, these things are not verifiable by external sources. These are not claims. Right? So if you've identified that all the claims that the model is making are correct, then it is no issues. Right? If there are multiple claims, sometimes these claims are primary and secondary. So primary claim is anything that directly affects your response. My user's intent, whatever is required for that specifically, becomes my primary claim. Right? If there's something extra that the model is giving me, that becomes a secondary claim for me. So if my model is telling me that, okay, 7 o'clock you have dinner with the band, that's a primary claim. Anything extra that the model starts giving, anything related, unrelated, whatever, something that's not directly affecting my intent, that becomes a secondary claim. Okay, so let me explain this with the help of an easier example. Let's say I've asked it for hotels that serve Chinese. So the name of the hotel and whether or not it serves Chinese. What is that? Primary or secondary? My question was find me hotels that serve Chinese. Primary, name of the hotel and the point that it serves Chinese or not. Let's say the model is also telling me what are the opening closing timings of this restaurant. That is a secondary information for me. That's not directly affecting my intent. That's not affecting me being able to get hotel information or not. Okay. However, if it gives me the wrong opening and closing timings and I do use that information and go there, it will still affect my user experience if they are wrong. So that is why we do flag them, but we flag them as a minor issue. That if it's not directly affecting my intent, then it's fine. That's a minor issue. But if it's directly affecting my intent and the primary claim itself is wrong, that becomes a major issue. Right? You've got not applicable when there are no explicit or implicit claims in the response. So if there weren't any claims, all it said was, I've opened your calendar for 7 p.m. There are no claims. There are no claims. Model being able to do the task or not is not a claim. That's your punch statement. Right? So if there are no claims, it becomes not applicable. If there are claims, you will check if they're true or not. If everything is correct, no issues. Primary correct, secondary wrong, minor. Primary itself wrong, major. And if you're not able to verify them, let's say your model is saying, I've opened your calendar for 7 p.m. You have dinner with the band scheduled from 7 to 9. And this entire context block was not there for you. Would you be able to verify this information? Will you find this information about the user's calendar outside on your Google search? Yeah? No? Right. How do you verify these claims are correct or not? Firstly, you will look at this information. You will use your context that's given to cross check if you can find it there, right? Mostly when it comes to these tasks, anything personal about the user, you will find it here only. What event is there? What's not there? You can't find my calendar or your calendar on Google when you make a Google search. But let's say the model is making some additional claims that are general world knowledge. Those can be checked from your Google search. Right? So either you can check it from your context or you can search it from your Google search. Or sometimes you can also use this code output to verify information. Right? Even here, you will have information that the model was able to fetch based on Google search or your context. So all three of them become your sources of truth. Right? Google search or any other platform, basically when I say Google search, I mean you go and make a search and use reliable information. If the model is claiming that, I don't know, something about a restaurant having a 4.5 star rating, the most reliable source for that is either the website of the restaurant itself or some sources where these are authentic restaurant reviews or customer reviews, right? Not just random base. If I'm asking to find out something about robotics, I would rather have this information come from research papers, reliable websites, rather than just user put up blog posts and stuff. So your context will give you information to verify. Your code output will give you information to verify. If you're able to find it here, that's also fine because this is what the model fetched. And if you have some general world knowledge in your response, you can go outside and check that as well. If you're not able to check, let's say what we were stuck on, if this context was not given to you and you did not know what's planned for the user from 7 o'clock or at 7 o'clock, is there any way you can go outside and check for this information? No. But you also cannot tell that this is wrong. Let's say this context was not there and the model is telling you you have this. Neither do you have information to tell that it's not an issue, nor do you have proof to tell that it's not an issue. In those cases, you will mark cannot assess because you are not able to assess if it's true or not. You cannot unnecessarily penalize the model by saying that this is not true. Even you don't know if it's true or not because you don't have information to check it. Okay. The next criteria or dimension, pretty easy, information retrieval. What do we mean by this? If there is a document, file, or email attached in your question, then you need to check if the model retrieved information properly from there or not. So only for a document, file, or email attached in your prompt. Not your context, not YouTube links, none of that. Document, file, or email. Now, these might be attached as links. And when you share a Drive link or when you share a Google document link, it can go as a URL. But that does not mean that just because it's a URL, you won't check. You will click on the URL. If it opens up to a document file or an email thread, you will check if the model picked up all the information that was needed from there and gave it accurately. So, if there's a document file or email and the model retrieved all the correct information to fulfill the user's intent, no issues. If there is one and the model picked up most of the information correct, but there were some things that it did not pick up right, minor issues. Major, if it retrieved the information but all of that information is wrong, or it didn't retrieve any information at all. Both cases. Not applicable if there are no documents, emails, or files in the prompt explicitly. Your prompt does not have any document, file, or email, then you will straight away go and say it's a not applicable. Okay. After that, you've got your code and code output. Now, how do you judge your code and code output? So the first thing you need to look at in your code, like I mentioned, you have the tool itself, the function, and the parameter. So these are some of the tools that are available to the model. This is not an exhaustive list. We've just given you examples here. Right? Now, let's say the model is setting up a calendar event or getting information from your calendar. It's using a generic calendar tool. So something that's relevant will always need to be used. If I'm telling it calendar and then here you start seeing Google Flights, that's not okay. From Google Flights, it'll never get the right information for me. So it needs to use the right tool. It needs to use the right function, which is what's the action or the operation that it needs to perform on this. From your calendar, it's asking to show what's on this ID, right? So from your calendar, it's asking to search. That's your function. What is the model doing with this? And then are your parameters. So if all three of them are right, the tool itself, the function, and the parameter, it becomes a no issue. If your tool is right, but there are some errors in your function and your parameters, that's a minor issue. All of this information is given in this document, guys. It will be shared with you as well. So if your better tool functions or parameters could have been used, that becomes a minor issue, right? Let's say major issue is when the tool itself is incorrect or multiple critical parameters are missing. All of this becomes a major issue. Right? Not applicable is when you don't have any code and code output. So here in block 1, it's a user's query. There's still no code, right? Code, no, a code looks like this, guys. Your tool, your function, and your parameters. Nothing given. So this becomes a not applicable in your code because there isn't a code here, right? So if your tool, function, parameter, all of them are right, no issues. Tool is fine, but functions and parameters could have been a little better, minor issue. They're not exactly what the user is asking for. Major, if critical parameters are missing and the tool itself is wrong and or, right? Then it's a major. Not applicable when the code itself is not given. Code output. So the output that it gave you after deploying the code, how good is that? You are checking the quality of this, right? How do you check the quality of this? You look at just this. You don't look at the response. You only look at this and you identify, is this able to give me the answer to satisfy my user's intent? So let's go through this. Open my calendar for 7 p.m. Read through this. Is this giving the user the answer that they want? What's the calendar at 7 p.m.? Can the user judge it from this? Yes, the model has mentioned it in the code output that you have a dinner with the band, right? So only on the basis of the code output, if you are able to satisfy the full intent of the user, it becomes a no issue. If you're partially able to satisfy, some information is given, some of it is still missing. That's a minor issue. If your model gave you a code output, that's not going to answer the user's intent at all. That is a major issue, right? So when you look at the code output and you know that you can't answer the user's intent at all you need to do is in your code output, look at the code output and look at the question, right? You don't have to look at how well the response was generated or not out of this. All you're going to look at is based on the code output, will I be able to answer my user if I didn't have any response from the model? Yes means no issues. Some things missing here and there, minor. It does not answer the user intent at all, major. Okay. Not applicable again. Let's say in our response here, if there was no code, we also did not have any code output, then even that becomes a not applicable for us. Here, both of them will become a no issue for us because the code was also deployed properly and the code output was also correct. Finally, you will mark the overall response quality. The guidelines for this remain the same that you've worked on previously. If there are no major minor issues, it becomes a cannot be improved or an A. If there are no major issues but one or two minor issues, minor room for improvement or B. So on, you will look at the entire table and then mark this very objectively. If you do notice issues, count the number of issues, check where it needs to go to, and then mark it accordingly. Because only on the basis of this is your Likert scale marked. So if you don't get this right, your Likert scale answer will also go wrong, which is your final answer or reward to the model. Let's say if I've identified this is minor room for improvement and this is horrible, I do check the table, how to mark my Likert scale. Here, very point-based system is given to you all already. If there's a 1 point difference between your markings, what is the 1 point difference? Cannot be improved, minor room for improvement, right? Okay on one and minor room for improvement. So just 1 point difference between the two, that's a slightly better. If one is horrible because it had multiple major issues and one is cannot be improved because it had no issues at all. It can be vice versa. This can be cannot improved and this can be horrible. But only when you have on the extreme ends of the continuum, you will say they are much better. If you've got 2 point differences, right, or 3 point differences, it becomes a better. Clear? Right? This is exactly what's given in this table also. Please go through it. The only other case that you will find is, let's say both of them are marked okay. Now we know we mark it okay when there are more than 2 minor issues. So this means this could be 3 minor issues and this could be 5 minor issues. But both of them will still get an okay. So if you look at your okay, more than 2 minor issues. So one could have 3 and one could have 5. When that's the case, obviously the one that has 3 is slightly better. Even if both of them are okay, I would still like to go for the one that's making less errors at least. You'll find that in okay, in pretty bad, in horrible, minor room for improvement. If one has one minor issue and two, and the other one has two, you will still have minor room for improvement on both of them. But the one having only one issue becomes slightly better than the one having two issues. Right? So always count the number of issues. If your markings are same in the overall response quality, always count the one with lesser issues and that becomes slightly better. Cool. After you're done with your rating, you will provide a detailed justification. When I say detailed justification, what I mean by that is, if you're saying A is slightly better than B, please write A is slightly better than B because, and give me a detailed justification about why A is slightly better than B. First, give me your justification for this rating itself. Tell me what A did better than B. Then go on and describe your A separately, like given in your structures. Right? So first, tell me which one was better and why. Then tell me the one that was better, how was it good? How did it enhance the user experience? Then also tell me the one that was lower in quality, how was that affecting the user experience. Okay, so you need to give us why you prefer the one that's better. How did it improve the user experience? The one that was not good, how did it affect the user experience? And then some suggestions to improve the model in general. So justifications need to be extremely detailed. Now, if you're telling me that there is an issue in, let's say, minor issue in collaboration, justify that by saying the model said, let me know how can I help you. Instead of that, it could have given a more relevant question like, tell me if you also have a preference for the ambience of your restaurant. I can give you more suggestions. So, very targeted questions are always preferred. Targeted suggestions are always preferred. So, if you're marking minor issue, tell the client why did you mark it as a minor issue. The model collaborated by asking if it can help me with something else. However, if it would have asked the user something more relevant like this, give an example question, that would have been better. So instead of just telling that A is better than B because it has more number of issues than the other one, or it has issues in collaboration, writing style, and tone, while the other one has just one issue in relevance, no, you're already marking that. The client can already see where the issues are. You need to justify why that's an issue. Not what the issue is, but why is it an issue? How is it affecting the user? After this entire thing is done, you will submit the task. Right? In case there are issues in the better response, do we explain those or not? Yes, you do, Agniv. When will this project start? So this project is expected to start soon. The reason we are doing the training right now is because you will be giving an assessment after this. We need to check your performance so that as soon as the project is in, we can deploy you. Right? So please make sure that you are going through the assessment, marking the answers accurately. How many tasks? You will have 8 questions on the assessment. Please make sure you're attending them. They're not going to be too long. You've seen the task right now. It's pretty short. We will take up 5 minutes and at least try solving one response so that you all know how we're doing it. Right? Let me share my screen again. So I might not keep switching to the instruction document because I don't want to keep you all for too long. But when you are tasking, please make sure you're using the instruction document for every rating that you're making. Open my calendar for 7 p.m. Right? That's the user intent. Let's see what the model is saying. I cannot directly open your calendar as I am an AI and do not have access to your personal applications or devices. To see what's on your calendar for 7 p.m., you'll need to do the following. What will be market and punt? Punt is judged based on not whether it was able to do it or not. If it refused and gave more information, is this information useful to the user or not, is what you will mark it against. Useful punt, spot on. So response is a useful punt. Even though it did not do it, it at least gave me the steps how to do it. Did it follow your instructions? Instruction following. My question was, open my calendar for 7 p.m. Did it actually go check what was at 7 p.m. even though it had it available and then it still came back and said no? No. So this becomes a major issue. It had the information, it could do the task, but it still said it cannot, which means it did not follow my instruction. All right. After that, you've got context awareness. Did it pick what was needed from the context? My context did have 7 o'clock dinner with the band. Did the model pick that? No. So that becomes a major issue. In context awareness, we are checking both any previous conversation or the context block itself. If both are given, you will check both. If one is given, you will check one. If none of them are given, only then you will mark it as a major issue, not applicable. How relevant is the content in your response? Is this relevant to you? Yeah, it's helpful. Correct. So, no issue. How complete is the content? Why is it a minor issue or a no issue? Why major issue? Any reasons? So relevance is not what is being checked here. Major as a user intent is not satisfied, right? So let's read the criteria once and then you guys can decide major or minor. It definitely has an issue. It cannot be no issue. It had the information, it did not give me what I wanted, right? So it's not that it's technically correct also. But let's still go and look at our completeness. Right. Minor would be there is some relevant information that's missing the response, reducing its helpfulness, leaving the user dissatisfied. So some relevant information is missing. Major would be necessary information is missing to such an extent that the response does not at all fulfill the user's intent. Does it fulfill the user's intent at all? No. Right? So this is a major issue. Even when it had the information, it did not fulfill my intent at all. This information can be relevant to me, but it's not completing my intent. Right? So now do you know how to mark even when there are punts? Yeah. The next few we've already established. Collaboration, sorry, writing style and tone. This is well written, so it does not really need to be penalized. You can read, you can understand. Collaboration wasn't really required on this task, so we would say it's not applicable. Okay. Is the response factually correct? We already established there were no facts in this as well. This one did have a fact. Okay. After that, we checked if there were any documents or not. Information retrieval not applicable. There's no code. There's no code output. Right? So this is how you will mark your answers. Clear, everyone? Right. Ankur, can you please not share any WhatsApp group chats here? You will be taken off the meetings, guys. Please do not share any irrelevant information here that's unofficial. The word assessment itself suggests, Rahul, I think I've gone, how will you mark punts? I've gone through it, not just in instruction following, but the other ones as well. Right? Okay. Again, coming back to your question, are these tasks paid? It's an assessment, as the name suggests. If you're able to clear this, we will be able to deploy you on this particular project where the client's questions about calendar will be on your tasking platform. Right? There were paid assessments previously. That's another thing, Agni. That's not for your generic assessments. Those were your simulator projects. So please do not confuse with that. Assessments are not paid. This is still checking your eligibility if you are able to do these tasks or not. You crack the fundamental one, right? But these extra dimensions, code output, punt, calendar task, using the context, all of this was not there. So I need to understand if you're getting these right or not, and then be able to deploy you on the project. Okay. All right. Bluebird didn't start yet. Any other project related questions? This training is specifically for calendar tasks. Okay. The assessment is not available on your dashboard right now. It will come up on your dashboard in 1 or 2 days. Please hold on. We will let you know once it's up on your platform. We will send you an email for the same. Resources will also be shared for you. All right. Cool. Thank you, everyone. I am going to pause the chat again and put in the attendance form for people. So in case you weren't able to fill it, please fill it now. Yes, Navnita, for every kind of project you will be trained because the nature of task itself is very different. That you will need to attend a training, an onboarding, refresher trainings to be able to push for the quality that we expect from you and to be able to understand the nature of the task itself. Zoa, I do understand your concern that 8 tasks would take a lot of time if not selected, but to be able to understand the task and get the accuracy that we are looking for, you will take at least 2 3 tasks to even ease into it and understand. Okay, if you, let's say, just perform one question, I cannot come up with a conclusive decision that yes, you do know the entire thing, because every question is different. So people who've been tasking with us on the previous phases, they would completely agree with this, that every question that comes up has a little bit of nuance to it, and then the instructions do get a little difficult to tackle. So that is the reason, for your own benefit, because when we look at your average, for it to go up, 1 or 2 tasks you might take to even get used to it, then you'll start performing better, and then your average would go up. Okay. All right, everyone. I have left the attendance form in the chat box. We'll keep this meeting on for another minute or two, and then we will end the session. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining in. I really hope you understood all the dimensions. We will let you know when the assessment is up, so you don't have to worry about why is it not available on my platform right now. When it is there, we will send out an email to you telling you that it's available. Please go and take it. Resources will also be shared in the same email for you. Right. Thank you so much. Have a nice day, everyone. I look forward to seeing all of you all taking the assessment, clearing it, and welcoming you onto the project. Thank you. Have a nice evening.